Hey everyone, it's John Davidson here with Reclaiming Christendom. I wanted to talk briefly about a story I saw in the news this week from Britain. Britain's National Health Service issued official guidance recently extolling the virtues of first cousin marriage, that is, incest. Why were they doing this? Well, the reason they were doing this, rather than recognizing that first cousin marriage is associated with all sorts of heritable genetic diseases and oftentimes abuse and social dysfunction, the National Health Service in Britain was extolling cousin marriage because of its large Pakistani Muslim immigrant population, among whom first cousin marriage is very common. It's extremely common in Pakistan, but that practice, that cultural practice, has now found root and taken root in Britain among what is really an unassimilated Muslim immigrant population. Now, the National Health Service doesn't say that's why it's talking about this issue, but that is why it's talking about this issue. And it was really a startling example of how Britain's political leadership is not only pandering to its migrant Muslim immigrant population, but how it's doing so and willing to turn its back on Western civilization in the process. Now, why do I say that? Because cousin marriage is something that has been repudiated for centuries and centuries in the West. The Catholic Church began restricting and then outright banning first cousin marriage as early as the 6th century. Pope Gregory the Great, shortly after he became Pope in 590, banned cousin marriage outright. And that is the stance that the Catholic Church has maintained ever since. And a lot of scholars recognize that the Catholic Church's prohibition on cousin marriage or incest is one of the things that was responsible for the rise of Western civilization in Europe. It helps to break down insular, isolated clans or family clan groups that were warring with other clans and forced these people to marry outside of their own bloodlines, which in turn created a higher trust society and social cohesion and peace, which is really what the Catholic Church was after and has always been in favor of, and what enabled really what we now know as Western civilization to flourish on the European continent. It's ironic that uh, cousin marriage was illegal and outlawed in England up until the time of the Reformation. King Henry VIII, he lifted the prohibition on cousin marriage so that he could marry someone who he would otherwise be prohibited from marrying. And so while cousin marriage is not outlawed in England today, that is a result of a repudiation back in the early 16th century of the Protestant Reformation of King Henry VIII. Now carry that forward 500 years, the political leadership in England is now embracing and extolling cousin marriage, not only as a rejection of Western civilization, but an affirmation of what is an alien Islamic culture taking root in Great Britain. And it's really startling to see it actually happen in real time. I wrote about this at the Federalist. You can check that out at thefederalist.com in more detail. But I wanted to draw your attention to this because it's a really arresting example of how the political leadership in Europe and in Britain specifically is really turning its back on Christendom and rolling the clock back and embracing the cultural practices of alien non-Christian cultures. That's all for now. See you next time.